There's a very particular way in which you have to write out the key signatures of major scales, and that's what we're going to be exploring in the next few videos. I've written out a number of major scales on this page, and I've written them out in a very particular order. And it just so happens this is the same order that I had you write them out in when you did the homework assignment where you had to write out scales note by note using the half and whole step pattern. So let's start at the top of the page and see what we've got here. So the first scale that I've written out here is the key of C major. So I'm just going to write a C on the end here to remind us of that. C major is pretty easy. We go from C to C. There are no sharps, no flats. The next key I've written out is the key of G major. Start on G, end on G, and we have one sharp. We have one accidental, and that's an F sharp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put that sharp in the key signature. And I'm going to erase that sharp right here. Now let's go down to the next scale. And the next scale that I've written out is the scale or the key of D major. I'll write that D right here. And there are two accidentals in this key going from D to D. There is an F sharp and there is a C sharp. Now notice, we had an F sharp in the previous key, didn't we? So I'm going to put that F sharp on the top line, exactly where I put it in the previous one, and add to that F sharp the C sharp. I'm going to put that C sharp in the third space right here. All right, let's keep moving down. The next key I've got is an A major scale. So I'm going to write an A here. And the A major scale happens to have 3 sharps. And look at this. It has 3 sharps, but 2 of those sharps are sharps that we saw in the previous key, in the key of D. So I'm going to write that F sharp right where I had it in the key of D. I'm going to write that C sharp right where I had it in the key of D. And I'm going to add to that the new sharp that we have in the key of A, which is G sharp. And I'm going to put that way up here, up on this space. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to erase these sharps here just to remind me that I don't need them. I forgot to do that in the one above, so I'm going to do that too. All right. Let's keep going down. What's the next key I've got? The next key I've got is the key of E. Okay. And in E, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different sharps. But look at this. 3 of those 4 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, are sharps that I had in the previous key, in the key of A. So I'm going to write those sharps out exactly where I did in the key of A. F sharp on the top line, C sharp in that space, G sharp in the space above the staff, and add to that the new sharp that I've added in the key of E, which is D sharp. And then I'm going to erase these sharps in my staff just to remember that I don't need them, because that key signature means that all of those sharps that I've put in the key signature are going to be valid for the rest of the piece, unless we're told otherwise. Now I want to stop for just a moment and take a look at what we've created so far. Do you see a pattern emerging? The key of C has no sharps or flats. The key of G has 1 sharp, F sharp. The key of D has 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. The key of A has 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. The key of E has 4 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. So in every successive key, we're adding one more sharp. We're taking the sharps that we had in the previous key, and we're adding one more. Let me tell you two more things about this pattern, and maybe you've figured this out already. Notice how I've arranged these scales. The first scale I wrote out was the key of C. The next I wrote out was the key of G. From C to G is a perfect fifth. The next scale I wrote up was the key of D. And guess what? From G to D is a perfect fifth. The next scale I wrote out was an A. And from D to A is a perfect fifth. The next scale I wrote out was an E. And again, guess what? A to E is a perfect fifth. So I'm writing out these scales in the order of the circle of fifths. C, G, D, A, E. If I'm doing that, can you guess what's going to be next? If you guessed the key of B, you are right, because B is one more down the circle of fifths of from E. And after that, we will have F sharp. And after that, we will have C sharp. And C sharp, as we'll see, will be the final of the keys that we look at, what we call the sharp keys, the keys that have only sharps in their key signature. So let's just continue this pattern down. All right, so my next key is the key of B. Here's the key of B. And in the key of B, I have all four of the sharps I had in the key of E. So F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp. And to those four, I am going to add A sharp. And I'm going to add that right on the second space. And then I'm going to erase all of these sharps just to remind myself. I erased B as well, so I'm going to put that back in. Now you really start to see this pattern emerging. And let's do two more, and then we're going to be at the end. Okay, so the next key I have is the key of F sharp. And guess what? F sharp is going to take all five of those sharps that I had in the key of B. Oops, F sharp is going to have all five of those sharps that I had in the key of B, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp. I'm running out of room a little bit. But then we're going to add the sixth sharp of E sharp. And I'm going to go back, and I'm going to erase all of these sharps, just to remind myself that I don't need them anymore. And then finally, last but not least, the last key we're going to have is the key of C sharp. So we're going to bring down all of those sharps that we had in the key of F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp. And what are we going to add to those? We're going to add C sharp, which is the one sharp that we add. So I'm going to erase all of these. Just as a side note, sometimes people think about C sharp as being a really complicated key, or a really hard to conceptualize key, but actually it's really easy. Look at this. And we can see this with this key signature. C sharp is just the key of C with every single note sharp. That's it. Now, let's look at the pattern that we've created here. So, starting from C, the key of C has no sharps or flats. The key of G has one sharp, and sometimes we refer to the key of G as one sharp, the key of one sharp. The key of D has two sharps. The key of A has three sharps. The key of E has four sharps. The key of B has five sharps. The key of F sharp has six sharps. And the key of C sharp has seven sharps. And that's it. We don't go any further with the sharp keys because in the key of C sharp, we've sharped every single possible key. So that's it. That's the end of the line for the sharp keys. When you write out the key signatures for the sharp keys, you write them out in exactly the order that I just did, and you write them out in exactly the line or space on the staff that I did. And if you look in the Music Theory Survival Guide, I have a chart that shows you exactly where all the sharps should go in both the treble and bass clef. It's a little bit different for treble and bass, but I'll put the link down in the description. So those are the sharp keys. In the next video, we will look at the flat keys.